Welcome to This Day in His Story, created by American Heritage Worldwide, a reminder that every day holds something new to learn. Did you know that, as a woman, Mercy Otis Warren used a secret name to write and publish 1,700 pamphlets arguing for individual liberties? Join us as we explore her influence in the politics of the American Revolution.
So today we're pulling back the curtain on maybe a less obvious revolutionary force, someone not on the front lines, perhaps?
Right, not with a musket anyway.
Exactly. But wielding something, well, arguably much sharper.
The pen.
The pen, we're talking about Mercy Otis Warren, a woman whose wit, satire, and just relentless political pressure really helped push America toward independence.
Yeah, and she was so involved. She wasn't just writing her own letters.
No. Get this, she was apparently interrupting her husband while he was writing official correspondence.
Literally grabbing the pen, metaphorically at least, to make sure her points got across to Congress.
Incredible.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive, isn't it? We're looking into the sources about her.
Focusing on how she became this, well, powerful political activist when women weren't supposed to be.
Right, and how she used that writing, as her specific tool of resistance.
And then there's that really difficult story, the breakdown of her friendship with John Adams, a major founder.
Yeah, pretty intense falling out. It tells you a lot.
It really does, and I love that we can actually pinpoint a moment, almost, where she inserts herself right into the record.
Okay, let's set the scene.
November 15th, 1775. Her husband, James Warren, is writing a letter. He's trying to get it done, writing to John Adams, who's a delegate to Congress at this point.
And she basically butts in, not just, maybe add this, but insists he includes her specific demand.
It's amazing. And it wasn't some polite suggestion either.
No way.
Yeah.
She told Adams, basically tell Congress they need to stop piddling at the threshold. Her words.
Piddling at the threshold. Wow.
Yeah. It is time to leap into the theater, she said. Unlock the bars and open every gate that impedes the rise and growth of the American Republic.
That's bold. She's saying, enough dithering, let's do this.
Absolutely. Commit now. No more waiting.
And what's really striking is right there in the same paragraph, she lays out her core beliefs. It's pure Enlightenment thinking.
Mm-hmm. She talks about the natural equality of man.
Right. And their right of adopting their own modes of government.
And the dignity of the people. These are the bedrock ideas of the whole revolution.
Expressed so clearly, so forcefully by a woman in 1775, it's kind of mind-blowing.
It is, and you have to understand the context to see how remarkable that was. I mean, she came from this Mayflower Puritan background, grew up near Plymouth Rock.
So a very traditional setting in some ways.
Exactly. She understood her role, the expectations for women then, but she was also just, drawn to education and the political storm brewing all around her.
And she got access to education that was really, really uncommon for girls at the time.
That's a key part of her story. As a kid, she somehow convinced her father to let her sit in with her older brothers.
While they were being tutored for Harvard.
Yep, private tutors, getting them ready for university.
Yeah.
And she wasn't just sitting quietly in the corner, you can bet.
She was soaking it up. History, English literature.
And crucially, Enlightenment philosophy. These radical new ideas about rights and government.
And this education wasn't happening in a vacuum, right? Her family was already neck-deep in politics.
Oh, absolutely. Her older brother, James Otis, he was a major figure early on. Remember his fight against the writs of assistance back in 1761?
Okay, remind us, writs of assistance, those were like blank search warrants from the British.
Pretty much. They let officials search anywhere, anytime, for smuggled goods. No specific cause needed.
A huge violation of privacy.
Exactly. And Otis argued passionately that they violated fundamental natural law. He became this famous orator. So she's seen that up close.
And then her husband, James Warren, he gets involved too.
Mm-hmm. He joins the Patriots, resisting the Stamp Act in 1765. That whole crisis over British taxes.
So resistance was just in the air she breathed.
It really was. Long before she started writing publicly herself, she was surrounded by it, discussing it, thinking about it.
Which leads us right into how she found her own way to fight back, the pen as a weapon.
Right, because direct political speech was, frowned upon for women, to put it mildly.
So she had to be creative.
Very. She turned to poetry, and especially these satirical plays. And importantly, she published them anonymously.
In the patriotic newspapers, right?
Exactly. Anonymity gave her cover, let her say things she couldn't say under her own name.
What's interesting, though, and the sources point this out, is that she wasn't immediately gung-ho about diving into politics herself. She actually had some reservations.
She did. She saw the ugly side of it. She called politics a dismal train of warring passions.
Wow, an endless strife. That sounds pretty negative.
It shows she wasn't naive. She even wrote a poem to her husband, James, basically asking him to retire from it all.
Really? What did it say?
It was called To J. Warren, Esquire, an invitation to retirement. She urged him, come leave the noisy, smoky town. We wisely will disdain. Like, let's get away from this mess.
But clearly she didn't stay away herself. Or maybe she couldn't.
No, she got drawn in. And when she did, that satirical approach was, well, devastatingly effective.
How did she use it? Who was she targeting?
Primarily, the local bigwigs who supported the British Crown. Loyalists. Especially Governor Thomas Hutchinson, he was a favorite target.
And she didn't name him directly?
Nope. She used these thinly disguised characters in her plays, gave them ridiculous satirical names. Everyone knew who she meant, but it gave her plausible deniability.
Making the powerful look foolish. That's a classic tool of resistance.
And it worked. It chipped away at their authority, used ridicule as a political weapon.
So, despite her earlier warnings about that dismal train, she eventually jumped on board with both feet.
She really did. She wasn't just writing anonymously anymore. She and James were hosting people like John Adams in their home.
Discussing strategy, revolutionary ideas openly.
Absolutely. She was fully engaged, and she seemed aware of the power she had. There's this instance in 1775 where she actually asked Adams if maybe her satiric propensity, her tendency towards satire, should be dialed back a bit.
Like she was questioning if it was fair to make someone the object of public derision?
Exactly.
Yeah.
She understood the impact of her words and wrestled with the ethics of it, which is fascinating.
And that connection with Adams, that early intellectual partnership, it makes the next part of the story even more, well, poignant.
The fractured alliance.
Because before and during the early part of the war, they seemed to be on the same page. She admired his work in Congress. He encouraged her writing.
They were allies, definitely. He was crucial in pushing Congress towards independence, something she clearly wanted.
But then things started to fray. What happened?
Well, the sources suggest it boils down to perspective, really. They experienced the revolution very differently.
How so?
MOW was stateside, living through the war on the home front. You know, the shortages, the fear, the daily grind of it all.
Well, Adams was.
Adams spent years overseas, in Europe, working constantly, yes, but in the world of diplomacy, courts, trying to get money and recognition for America. A very different reality.
And she started to think that changed him.
She definitely did. She felt he was being swayed by the wealth and luxury, the aristocratic atmosphere of Europe.
And she called him out on it.
Oh, yes, very directly. She accused him, basically, of forgetting what they were fighting for. She said he'd relinquished the Republican system and forgotten the principles of the American Revolution.
That's a heavy charge. To say he'd forgotten the principles he'd championed for, what, 20 years?
It's huge. And this disagreement really exploded after the war, during the fight over the U.S. Constitution.
Right, she became a prominent anti-federalist.
A very prominent one. She wrote against the proposed Constitution under a pen name, Columbian Patriot.
Why was she against it? What were her main arguments?
She felt it created a central government that was too powerful, too distant from the people. And crucially, it didn't have enough protections for individual rights. No Bill of Rights yet, remember.
And her writing on this, it had real impact, didn't it? We always hear about the Federalist Papers arguing for the Constitution.
We do, but get this statistic from the sources. In New York, a key state for ratification, the Anti-Federalists distributed something like 1,700 copies of her pamphlet opposing the Constitution.
Okay.
Compare that to the Federalists. The Federalist Papers, only about 500 copies were initially printed for distribution there.
Wow, so her critique potentially reached more than 3 times as many people in that crucial debate in New York.
That's what the numbers suggest. Her voice carried enormous weight.
And Adams. Well, he must have felt that weight. How did he react to her opposition and criticism?
He did not react well. He hit back hard, really hard.
What did he say?
He accused her of basically just pandering to the popular anti-federalist sentiment. He said she was writing to gratify the passions, prejudices, and feelings of the party who are now predominant.
Ouch. So dismissing her arguments is just playing to the crowd.
Pretty much. And he said she was adjusting her history writing, because she also wrote a history of the Revolution, to suit the taste of the 19th century, essentially accusing her of intellectual dishonesty and maybe writing out of revenge.
But it got even nastier than that, didn't it? It became personal.
Deeply personal. Adams eventually threw this accusation at her. He claimed her real problem,
Her animosity towards him was because he hadn't given government jobs to her sons.
Seriously, he accused her of being angry about political patronage for her kids.
Yes. That the political critique was just a cover for personal disappointment and resentment over her family's status.
That's incredibly ugly, turning a fundamental political disagreement into something so personal.
It really is.
Ah.
And that was pretty much the end. They stopped speaking after that. This decades-long friendship, forged in revolution, just completely shattered.
A high price for sticking to your beliefs.
Right.
And all this time, she's also supporting her husband's career.
Right. James Warren was busy too. Speaker of the Massachusetts Assembly, a general in the militia, paymaster general for the Continental Army. Important roles.
They really were a power couple in their own way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's Mercy's own legacy as a writer and thinker that really stands out. She kept writing satires, pamphlets, plays, her history, offering her perspective throughout this incredibly important period.
And the sources connect her anti-federalist fight directly to the Bill of Rights, really.
They do. Her arguments and those of other anti-federalists were a major reason those first 10 amendments guaranteeing individual liberties were added to the Constitution. Her push for those explicit protections was vital.
So her dissent actually shaped the foundation of American rights. That's powerful.
It really is. She lived a long life, saw the nation evolve. Mercy Otis Warren died on October 19, 1814. She was 87, still at her home in Massachusetts.
And her writings, her letters to Washington, Adams, Jefferson, they're preserved.
A tangible record of her intellectual contributions and her courage.
So, thinking about her legacy, what's the main takeaway for us, for you listening today?
I think it's fundamentally about free thinking and expression. She used her mind, her education, her voice through her pen to say what she believed.
Even when it was unpopular, even when it cost her dearly, like that friendship with Adams.
Exactly. And, that resonates today, doesn't it? We're constantly bombarded with different voices, competing narratives, spin.
So much noise.
So much noise. Her example kind of challenges us, doesn't it? It says, your job is to seek out what's actually true diligently, and then, importantly, have the courage to share it.
Yeah, the sources talk about seeking pure truth, like trying to get past the noise, the agendas, to find the real substance.
It's about clarity, finding the unadulterated facts, the core principles.
Which isn't always easy.
Definitely not. But it sets a high bar, and it leads us to those final kind of challenging questions that come out of her life story and this idea of seeking truth.
Questions for you, the listener, to maybe reflect on. First, what do you believe to be fundamentally true?
Second, how do you know these things are true? What's your basis?
And finally, maybe the hardest one, inspired by her example. Do you have the courage to actually share what you believe with others?
Thank you for joining us for this day in his story. May the lessons of yesterday inspire you to see God's hand today and to play your part in his story now. To learn more, visit ahsworldwide.org